The grand hall of the Lither Empire shimmered like a river of stars. Light bent and danced across crystal spires, reflecting the grandeur of a civilization that had dominated much of the known galaxy. Alien nobles in flowing metallic robes whispered in strange musical tones as they gathered for the most talked-about event of the century. No one had ever imagined that a human would stand at the center of such a spectacle, marrying the galaxy's most infamous princess. And yet, there he was, Kale, a human diplomat and adventurer, standing straight in a tailored ceremonial uniform that felt far too formal for someone who had spent more nights sleeping under alien skies than in a palace. Across the hall, the massive doors opened with a soft chime that echoed through the space. Every eye turned to see the bride step forward, Princess Vryla. The galaxy had whispered about her for decades, but no report, no painting, no hologram could prepare anyone for the reality. Her appearance was shocking. Jagged scales ran unevenly across her face, her teeth were sharp and misaligned, and her eyes glowed faintly with an almost feral intensity. Her height was slightly awkward, her limbs long and spindly, and yet her presence commanded attention. There was something about her posture, the way she held herself, that made the room fall silent despite the murmurs of disgust. Kale felt no fear, not even the smallest twinge of doubt. Humans had survived harsher trials than this. They had faced impossible odds, conquered harsh worlds, and outsmarted creatures far stronger than themselves. This was just another challenge, only this time it came draped in gold, crystal, and alien judgment. As Vrilla approached the ceremonial dais, Kale smiled warmly, giving her a small nod of encouragement. The gesture caught many off guard. Here was a human treating the ugliest princess in the galaxy as though she were the most beautiful woman in the universe. Whispers rippled across the hall like a wind through dry grass. Some sneered, some laughed, quietly. Others paused, wondering why Kale would not recoil. The ceremony began with the low hum of energy cords resonating through the hall. An alien officiant, whose skin shimmered with shifting colors, spoke in a language that vibrated the walls. Kale listened carefully, his human ears picking out patterns and cadence. He repeated the words when required, slightly out of rhythm, yet perfectly respectful. Vrila did the same, her sharp features softened by a hint of nervousness Kale could detect. He understood. She was used to fear, not trust. The human presence was foreign, but comforting in a way that no alien court could ever manage. As the vows approached, Vryla's eyes flicked to Kale. There was a question there, unspoken but clear. He smiled, a small, confident curve of his lips, and whispered under his breath, "We'll survive this together." She nodded slightly, her scales quivering in an almost imperceptible sign of relief. Then the moment came. Kale took her hand in his. The human skin against alien scales was a strange combination, yet it felt right. He spoke clearly and deliberately. "I accept you as my partner, not for duty, not for glory, but because I believe in what we can achieve together." The hall fell utterly silent. Murmurs ceased. Some nobles even gasped. A human had dared to say such words without flattery, without fear. It was audacious, unthinkable, and strangely honorable. Then the unexpected happened. During the ceremonial blessing, a holographic projection flickered above the dais. The entire audience gasped as an image of the Emperor appeared, his face stern and serious. The hologram emitted a message, clear and direct. "The fate of the galaxy rests on this union. Protect what you cherish, for enemies have already begun their move." The room froze. Nobles whispered in panic and fear. Vrilla's eyes widened in shock, her sharp teeth pressing together as she tried to process the message. Kale's mind, however, raced. He had expected ceremony, intrigue, perhaps even sabotage, but this was something bigger, something urgent. When the hologram faded, Kale stepped forward, scanning the room for reaction. The alien nobles looked at each other, fear and suspicion evident in their glowing eyes. Some attempted to whisper diplomacy to each other, while others openly stared, wondering if Kale and Vrila were now pawns in a plot far larger than they could comprehend. Kale caught Vrilla's gaze and saw determination, fear, and relief all at once. They had both realized appearances did not matter. Skill, courage, and trust did. Humans were not just guests in this game. They could be players. The ceremony continued, but the mood had shifted. Kale noticed small things that others missed. Security droids scanning the crowd a little too aggressively. Low humming in the walls that suggested hidden listening devices. Vrilla's advisors exchanging looks that spoke of urgency. Kale's human instincts, honed through years of survival and exploration, warned him. There was danger, real, immediate danger. And if they failed to recognize it, it could cost more than a wedding. It could cost the galaxy. After the formalities, Kale and Vrilla were escorted to a private chamber for their first night together. The room was vast and alien in architecture, walls that seemed alive with color and texture, furniture that seemed almost fluid, and an ambiance that made humans feel small. Vrila stood near a window, watching the spires of the city glinting against the night sky. Kale noticed a subtle tremble in her shoulders, not from fear, but from the weight of expectation. He approached slowly, careful not to startle her. "You're not afraid?" she asked, her voice a low, rough sound that carried more curiosity than worry. Kale shook his head. "I've faced worse," he said simply. "I've survived storms in the void, creatures that could crush a starship, worlds where nothing made sense. Bud, this is just a new challenge." Vrila tilted her head, considering his words. Then, surprisingly, she smiled. A small, crooked smile that made her jagged teeth appear less threatening. "You are not like the others," she said quietly. "They would have run. They would have mocked. You understand something they never will." Kale shrugged. "Humans have a habit of surviving impossible odds. And sometimes we trust when others would fear." They spent the evening talking not of ceremony, politics, or duty, but of shared experiences. Vrila spoke of her childhood, of experiments designed to enhance intelligence that left her appearance forever altered. She spoke of isolation, of a court that feared her more than it respected her. Kale listened, nodding. In his world, humans had faced prejudice too, though often for different reasons. He shared stories of Earth, of its wonders, its dangers, and its people, brave, resourceful, often underestimated, yet unstoppable when driven by purpose. Slowly, the fear and tension melted into mutual understanding. Something unspoken passed between them. The recognition of potential in each other, of a partnership that could defy expectations. Just as they were beginning to understand the depth of their connection, a soft chime echoed in the room. Kale's communicator, embedded in his sleeve, flickered with a warning. He touched it lightly, bringing up a discreet readout. A small fleet, unregistered and cloaked, was moving toward Earth's sector. The human mind immediately calculated possibilities. Could it be an attack? A diversion? Or something even more sinister? He glanced at Vrila, whose sharp eyes already noticed the anomaly. Her hands clenched slightly, scales rippling with tension. "They are moving faster than expected," she murmured. "The council, they have begun." Kale nodded. The moment for ceremony and admiration was over. The moment for action had begun. Despite the gravity, Kale could not help but marvel at the irony. Here he was, a human, standing beside the galaxy's most feared and ridiculed princess, and together they were about to confront threats no one had anticipated. Aliens across the Empire might have laughed at the Union, mocked Vrila's appearance, and dismissed Kale's capabilities, but in that room, with the city of crystals glittering beneath them and the stars themselves waiting, Cale knew something the galaxy would soon learn. Humans were not to be underestimated. And neither, he realized, was Vrila. As the night deepened, Cale and Vrila began planning, quietly and efficiently. Maps, data streams, and intelligence logs filled the room. Every decision, every movement was calculated with precision. Vrila's knowledge of the Empire's inner workings complemented Cale's intuition and adaptability. Together they were more than just bride and groom. They were a team, a force, the galaxy had not yet reckoned with. And as they worked, an unspoken understanding passed between them. The real story had not yet begun. The wedding had only been the first act, the true test, the moment when humans and the underestimated princess would shock the galaxy, was just over the horizon. In the quiet moments between strategy sessions, Cale looked at Vrila and smiled again. "You know," he said lightly, though his tone carried certainty, "they're going to regret ever underestimating us." Vrila's eyes narrowed, but this time not with anger or fear. Instead, there was a spark. Curiosity, excitement, and perhaps the first flicker of hope in decades. "Then let them," she replied softly. "Let them see what we can do." And with that, the first seeds of a legend were planted, the kind that would echo across galaxies, spoken not of beauty or appearances, but of courage, intellect, and the unbreakable spirit of humanity. The next morning, the light of Lither's twin suns spilled through the crystal windows of the palace, casting fractured rainbows across the floor. Cale woke before Vrila, as was his habit, and stared out at the city below. The spires gleamed like liquid metal, and airships drifted silently between them, their shadows dancing across the streets. Despite the beauty, Cale felt the weight of the Emperor's warning pressing on his mind. The hidden fleet moving toward Earth was only the beginning. Something deeper, more dangerous, was at play. The humans' underestimated ingenuity would soon be tested. Vriela entered the room with quiet steps, her long, scaled fingers brushing the walls as she moved. Her appearance, jagged and frightening to most, now seemed almost regal in the morning light. Her eyes met Cale's, and she gave a faint, knowing smile. "You're already planning?" she said softly, the musical undertone of her voice carrying curiosity and amusement. Cale shrugged. "I think better with data. I think better awake." He gestured toward a small, floating console he had brought from his quarters. Streams of alien symbols and maps rotated slowly, showing star systems, fleet movements, and power grids. Vrila leaned close, her breath brushing his shoulder, and studied the data with intense focus. "The fleet is moving faster than anticipated," she said, her voice low. "I predicted a delay, but the Council is taking risks. They think humans are weak." Cale's lips curved into a small smile. "And they think the princess is weak too," he added. "They're wrong on both counts." Vrila's eyes flickered with approval, and for the first time Cale saw not fear, but a spark of something else. A partnership forming under pressure, a bond forged in the face of an impossible threat. Over the next hours, Cale and Vrila moved through the palace, accessing restricted areas under the guise of newlywed privacy. Vrila knew the palace better than anyone, and she led Cale through hidden corridors, security checkpoints, and forgotten tunnels. They reached a chamber filled with artifacts, alien weapons, and holographic displays that pulsed with knowledge. Cale marveled at the intelligence stored here, millennia of the Empire's history, strategies, and secrets. He had seen advanced civilizations before, but this collection was unlike anything he had ever encountered. Vriela gestured to a holographic map of the galaxy. "This council does not act openly," she said. "They move in shadows, believing no one watches." "But they have underestimated humans. They have underestimated you." Cale studied the map carefully, noting the fleets, outposts, and sensor arrays. "If they're planning to strike Earth, they won't give us much time." What are they really after? He asked. Vrila hesitated, then spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. They want more than Earth. They want control over the human spirit, the unpredictability of your species. They think they can break it with force. But humans adapt. Humans endure. They can't calculate what humans will do next. Kale nodded. He had felt that truth every time he had survived a storm, every time he had outwitted a predator, every time he had explored the unknown. The first step was intelligence gathering. Verla guided Kale to the Empire's Central Archives, a massive chamber of floating dataspheres that contained records of all communication, fleet movements, and diplomatic transactions. Humans had a tendency to improvise, to think creatively, and Kale used that skill to access patterns in the Council's plans that aliens had overlooked. Hidden messages, subtle fleet movements, and coded communication streams revealed a chilling reality. The Council intended not only to attack Earth, but to manipulate other human colonies into surrender before anyone even knew what was happening. While Kale worked, Vriella shared her own experiences. She spoke of experiments designed to enhance intelligence that had left her appearance forever altered. She had grown up isolated, feared, and shunned. She had learned to survive in a world where no one expected her to succeed. And yet, despite everything, she had not given up. "I've been preparing for this my entire life," she said quietly. "Every insult, every failed experiment, every moment of fear. It all taught me how to survive, how to plan, how to fight when no one believes I can. And now?" "I have you. Maybe the humans I have read about are real in you." Kale smiled. "We humans thrive on the impossible. And apparently, we thrive on unlikely partnerships, too." Days passed with little rest. Kale and Vrilla moved constantly between secure locations, decoding transmissions, analyzing fleet movements, and preparing contingency plans. Kale began to notice subtle shifts in the palace, droids moving with unusual efficiency, advisors acting nervously, even the air itself carrying the faint hum of concealed energy. He knew the Council's spies were everywhere, and any mistake could reveal their knowledge. But the human mind was flexible, capable of improvisation in ways alien logic could never predict. Kale felt a growing confidence. They could win. But it would take more than technology. It would take courage, unpredictability, and trust. Then, during a quiet moment in the archives, Kale discovered a shocking truth. The Council's fleet, already on its way to Earth, was not acting independently. There was a secret commander, a shadow figure even within the Empire, directing operations from a hidden location. The holographic data showed an enormous weapon, capable of destroying entire planets, cloaked from sensors and hidden behind multiple layers of deception. Kale realized the stakes had escalated beyond any conventional battle. This was not just an attack. It was a plan for total annihilation. Vrilla's eyes widened as he shared the information. "They think humans will panic, that the unpredictability of your species will make you fail," she said. "But humans adapt. And now we have the advantage of knowing what they do not." Together they began to devise a plan that relied not on brute force, but on ingenuity. Kale suggested creating diversions, using the Empire's technology in unconventional ways, and turning the Council's own assumptions against them. Vrilla coordinated with loyal factions within the palace, while Kale reached out to human contacts across the galaxy through secure channels. Their teamwork was seamless, each complementing the other. Night fell over the palace, and Kale found himself walking along the observation deck, looking at the stars. "You know," he said, speaking more to himself than anyone else, "they probably think we're a joke, a human and the galaxy's ugliest princess trying to save the universe." Vrilla joined him silently, her scaled hand brushing his. "Let them think that," she said. "They will regret it." Kale nodded. For the first time he felt something beyond strategy. beyond survival. He felt hope that humans and those they chose to trust could overcome anything, no matter how insurmountable. The next morning brought news that the fleet had changed course slightly, an indication that the Council had noticed disturbances in their intelligence. Kale and Vrila worked quickly, adapting plans in real time. Kale's human creativity clashed beautifully with Vrila's meticulous planning. They designed traps disguised as routine maneuvers, used communication loops to mislead enemy sensors, and prepared Earth's defenses in ways the Council would never anticipate. Each move was calculated, yet flexible, relying on the unpredictable nature of human strategy. As the hours ticked by, tension grew. Every system beep, every shadow in the hall, every shift of energy in the palace made them alert. Yet amidst the tension, a bond had formed, unspoken but undeniable. Kale and Vrila relied on each other instinctively, anticipating reactions, filling gaps, and correcting mistakes before they happened. It was a partnership built on respect, trust, and a shared understanding that their galaxy depended on their success. Late that night, Kale looked at the holographic maps again. The Council's fleet was close to Earth's sector, and their secret weapon remained hidden. He turned to Vrila. "We may not know everything," he said, "but we know enough to fight smart. The humans have always survived when the odds were against them, and now we are the odds." Vrila nodded, her sharp eyes gleaming with determination. "Then we will survive. And when the Council sees what humans and I can do together, they will never forget it." Together they spent the rest of the night refining their strategies, anticipating moves, and preparing for the Council's first strike. Outside, the stars glimmered, indifferent to the fate of billions. But inside, a human and the galaxy's most feared princess had become a force no one had anticipated. The first step in their battle had been taken, and the galaxy was about to witness what humans could do when underestimated and underestimated allies were finally given the chance to act. By the time the twin suns rose again, Kale and Vrila were ready. The Council believed they had hidden their plans well, but they had failed to account for the unpredictability of humans and the brilliance of a princess who had been underestimated her entire life. The stage was set for a confrontation that would test courage, ingenuity, and trust in ways the galaxy had never seen. And as Kale looked at Vrila, standing tall despite every prejudice and every fear, he knew one thing: the real story was just beginning. The stars outside Earth's orbit were calm, almost serene. But beneath that calmness lay the pulse of impending conflict. Kale stood on the command deck of the Human Coalition's flagship, the hum of alien technology mingling with human controls. Around him, officers of various species moved with precise efficiency, yet it was clear they had little confidence in humans. Kale ignored their skepticism. Humans had faced impossible odds before. They had survived harsh worlds, hostile creatures, and cosmic storms that would have destroyed lesser species. Now they faced an entire alien council bent on annihilating Earth, and Kale intended to prove them wrong. Vrila stood beside him, her scaled hands resting lightly on the edge of the console. Her jagged teeth glinted faintly as she studied holographic displays of the approaching fleet. "They believe in overwhelming power," she said, her voice low and calm. "They think that size and numbers decide everything. They do not understand strategy, creativity, or instinct." Kale nodded. "And humans excel in all three," he said. "They will regret underestimating us." Vrila's eyes softened briefly. It was rare for her to show vulnerability, but the human beside her seemed to bring it out. "Then let us teach them," she replied. The first wave of enemy ships appeared as faint dots on the sensors, moving with careful precision. The Council had expected Earth's defenders to panic, but Kale had anticipated this. Using unconventional tactics, he ordered decoy transmissions, disguised fleets, and sensor loops that made the alien ships miscalculate distances and trajectories. Aliens, who relied heavily on logic and perfect calculations, began to falter. The humans' unpredictability worked like a blade, slicing through their expectations. Kale's strategy was simple, yet effective. Instead of facing the enemy head-on, he directed small, agile strike teams to harass supply lines, disable sensor arrays, and create confusion. He relied on humans' ability to improvise, to adapt on the fly, and to turn mistakes into advantages. Vrayla coordinated the Empire's loyal forces, using her knowledge of secret passages, hidden warp gates, and cloaked stations. Together, they orchestrated a ballet of deception that no alien council had ever encountered. The first real engagement came near a dense asteroid field. The alien fleet expected a straight approach, but Kale had prepared a trap. Human ships darted between the rocks with incredible speed, invisible to the Council's long-range scanners. Alien vessels, rigid and methodical, collided with debris or fired too late, wasting their energy and resources. Kale grinned, exhilaration sparking through him. "See?" he shouted to Vrayla over comms. "This is why they underestimate humans. We're messy, unpredictable, and brilliant when cornered." Vrayla allowed herself a small smile. "And dangerous," she added. While the battle raged, Kale noticed something extraordinary. Alien soldiers who had laughed at humans in simulations and strategy briefings were beginning to pause, to hesitate, to doubt. Their tactics were flawless on paper but rigid in execution. Humans with instinct and creativity could exploit every weakness. Kale realized that the perception of humans as weak, fragile creatures was about to shatter. The galaxy had never seen anything like this. Vrayla used her authority to rally the Empire's loyalists. She spoke calmly, but firmly, her voice carrying over communication channels. "Do not doubt, humans. Follow our lead, adapt, improvise, and trust. The enemy will not understand us, but together we can overcome them." Her words, paired with Kale's commands, inspired confidence where none had existed before. Fleet after fleet responded with precision, executing maneuvers that combined alien technology with human unpredictability. Kyle noticed one of the alien warships attempting a flanking maneuver. He directed a squad of human pilots to intercept it, instructing them to use unconventional tactics that no alien pilot would anticipate. The humans performed daring maneuvers, weaving through space debris and enemy fire with agility that amazed even Vrayla. The flanking ship was disabled before it could reach Earth's sector. The Council's confidence faltered. Kale could sense the panic spreading, even through long-distance sensors. Hours passed with the battle escalating across multiple star systems. The Council's fleet was larger, their weapons more advanced. But Kale's ingenuity allowed humans and loyalists to stay one step ahead. They used feints, decoys, and improvisation to neutralize numerical superiority. Human intuition became their greatest weapon, outmatching the Council's rigid logic. Vrayla, guiding operations from the command deck, felt a sense of pride. For the first time in her life, she was fighting alongside someone who saw beyond appearance, who understood the strength of underestimated beings. In the midst of the chaos, Kale discovered the Council's secret weapon, a massive cloaked station designed to unleash energy capable of destroying entire planets. The aliens had hidden it behind layers of stealth, believing no human could locate or penetrate it. Kale analyzed the station, noting subtle design flaws that the Council had overlooked. "They've assumed humans are too predictable to find this," he said to Vrayla. "They've made a mistake." Vrayla leaned over the holographic display, her glowing eyes scanning the schematics. "We can exploit these flaws," she said. "We can use the station against them, but it will require precision, timing, and trust in your instincts." Kale nodded. Humans thrived on challenges like this. They could think on the spot, improvise, and turn impossible situations into victories. He began formulating a plan that would not only neutralize the secret weapon, but also deliver a decisive blow to the Council's fleet. The execution of the plan was daring. Kale led a small strike team through hidden corridors within the weapon's outer defenses, using both stealth and improvisation to avoid detection. Vrayla coordinated remotely, guiding them with detailed knowledge of the station's design. Every human move relied on instinct, every decision made in split seconds, exploiting weaknesses that aliens had considered irrelevant. The tension was unbearable. If they failed, billions would die, and the galaxy would fall under the Council's control. Meanwhile, above the station, fleet battles continued. Humans used decoy fleets to lure enemy ships into traps, while Loyalists disabled key defenses. Aliens tried to anticipate the human moves, but instinct and creativity could not be simulated. Every human action surprised them, destabilizing formations, creating confusion, and forcing errors. Kale felt a surge of satisfaction. This was what humans excelled at, adapting when logic failed, turning chaos into advantage. Inside the station, Kale and his team reached the central core. He studied the energy flows, the weapon systems, and the control matrix. With guidance from Vryla, he made calculated adjustments, rerouting energy and creating feedback loops that would disable the station and redirect its destructive power back on the Council's fleet. It was a risky move. A single miscalculation could trigger the weapon prematurely, wiping out everything. Kale relied on human intuition, trusting instincts honed through years of survival in impossible conditions. As the plan unfolded, alarms blared throughout the station. Alien commanders realized their control was slipping, but it was too late. Kale's improvisation and Vryla's knowledge combined to outmaneuver even the most experienced alien strategists. The superweapon's energy pulse reversed, disabling the Council's fleet in critical sectors and neutralizing their advantage. Human ingenuity had turned a death sentence into victory. The battle ended with the Council's fleet scattered and demoralized. The galaxy watched in disbelief. Humans, who had been underestimated, had outsmarted a superior force. Vryla's reputation transformed overnight. No longer the feared ugly princess, she was recognized as a brilliant strategist and leader, a force equal to the human beside her. Kale, though exhausted, stood proudly. He had relied on instinct, adaptability, and courage, qualities that no alien technology could predict or counter. In the aftermath, communication channels across the galaxy buzzed with astonishment. Reports highlighted the daring maneuvers, the unconventional strategies, and the unexpected human brilliance. Allies rallied, inspired by what they had witnessed. Even neutral factions reconsidered their positions, realizing that humans were not weak or fragile, but capable of extraordinary feats. Kale and Vryla stood on the command deck together, surveying the aftermath. Ships from various species, previously poised to attack, now moved cautiously, reassessing their strategies. Vryla turned to Kale, her expression a mixture of pride and relief. "They will never underestimate humans again," she said softly. Kale smiled. "And they will never underestimate what we can do together," he replied. The victory had been hard won, requiring trust, courage, and brilliance. Yet it was only a glimpse of what was possible when humans refused to conform to expectations, and when allies, no matter how underestimated, stood together. Kale realized that this battle was not just a fight for Earth, it was a statement to the galaxy. Humans would survive, humans would adapt, and humans would triumph when the odds seemed impossible. As the twin suns of the Lythar Empire rose once more, Kale and Vryla prepared for the next phase. The Council had been weakened, but its reach remained. New challenges awaited, yet now they faced them not as uncertain participants in a game of survival, but as architects of victory. They had proven that ingenuity, courage, and trust could overcome overwhelming power. The galaxy would never forget the human who married the so-called ugliest princess, nor the brilliance that emerged when two underestimated beings dared to defy expectation. In the quiet after the battle, Kale looked at Vryla and saw a reflection of his own determination and resolve. She had been dismissed, feared, and ridiculed for decades. He had been underestimated, doubted, and dismissed by countless civilizations. Together they had not only survived, they had rewritten the rules. The galaxy had witnessed a new era, one where humans, and those who dared to trust them, could change the course of history. For the first time, Kale allowed himself a moment of satisfaction, not for victory alone, but for what it represented: the unstoppable force of human spirit and the unbreakable bond forged in the fires of challenge. Vryla, once the galaxy's most feared and ridiculed princess, now stood as a testament to the power of intelligence, courage, and partnership. Together, they had turned chaos into triumph, proving that the galaxy's assumptions about humans were not only wrong, they were laughably wrong. The stars beyond the command deck seemed to twinkle in quiet approval, as if the universe itself recognized the significance of what had occurred. And as Kale and Vrilla prepared for the challenges yet to come, one truth became undeniable. Underestimated humans and unlikely allies could achieve the impossible, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The galaxy seemed quieter now, but Kale knew better. Silence often meant preparation. The Council had suffered a devastating defeat, yet they were not finished. Hidden fleets, secret weapons, and loyalists waiting in the shadows still posed threats. Kale stood on the observation deck, looking at the stars, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. Beside him, Vrilla moved with calm precision, her eyes scanning incoming communications. Her presence was a steadying force, and Kale felt a confidence he had never known. Together they had survived the impossible. Now, they would finish what they started. Reports arrived that the Council's ultimate weapon, a massive station capable of destroying entire planets, had been repaired in secret and was preparing for deployment against Earth. Kale studied the schematics carefully, his human mind analyzing every angle.
"They think this will be our undoing," he said to Vrilla. "They've underestimated humans before.
But this time, I think we can turn it against them." Vrilla's scales shimmered as she nodded. "We can, but it will take precision, timing, and complete trust. One wrong move and billions die. Are you ready?" Kale smiled, the thrill of challenge coursing through him.
"Humans are always ready."
The plan was daring. Kale and a small team of elite human pilots would infiltrate the station using cloaked ships, exploiting weaknesses in its shields that only humans could detect. Vryla coordinated from the Empire's command deck, guiding their movements, predicting enemy reactions, and managing loyalist fleets across the sector. Every step relied on improvisation, instinct, and teamwork, strengths that aliens could never anticipate. As they approached the station, alarms blared, and enemy ships scrambled to intercept them. Kale's team dodged and weaved through debris fields, using unconventional maneuvers that no alien pilot would expect. The Council's forces, trained for logic and precision, were thrown into confusion. Every misstep they made, humans exploited with creativity. Kale felt a surge of excitement. This was what humans did best: turn chaos into advantage, use fear and unpredictability as weapons, and survive when logic alone would fail. Inside the station, Kale and his team located the central core. Energy flowed through intricate conduits, feeding the weapon's planet-destroying power. He studied the system, noting subtle flaws in its design. Weaknesses the Council had assumed were irrelevant. With Vriella's guidance, Kale began rerouting energy and creating feedback loops. One small error could trigger a chain reaction, destroying the station and everything nearby. But Kale trusted his instincts, relying on years of survival and improvisation. Outside, the battle continued across the sector. Human fleets and loyalists coordinated attacks, using decoys, traps, and unexpected maneuvers to disable enemy ships. Alien commanders struggled to respond to human unpredictability. Their fleets were powerful but rigid. Humans adapted. Humans survived, and humans thrived in chaos. Kale watched the battlefield unfold on the holographic display. Every successful maneuver, every captured enemy vessel, strengthened his confidence. Victory was within reach. Inside the core, Hayal executed the final phase of his plan. Energy conduits hummed, shields flickered, and the station's systems became unstable. He held his breath as the feedback loops began to reverse the station's destructive power. Slowly, the weapon turned on the Council's fleet, unleashing controlled pulses that disabled key ships without harming planets or civilians. Alien forces screamed in disbelief over comms, realizing too late that their ultimate weapon had been turned against them. Kale allowed himself a small grin. Humans had done it again. Vrilla's voice came through the comms, calm and precise.
Kale, the core is stabilizing.
Now is your chance. Direct the energy flow toward the remaining Council fleet. Kale nodded, adjusting conduits, guiding the energy like a conductor with an orchestra. Ships exploded, shields collapsed, and chaos reigned among the Council's forces. Human ingenuity had once again outsmarted superior technology, proving that creativity, adaptability, and instinct could triumph over brute force. As the battle concluded, Hayal and Vrilla watched the Council's remnants retreat. The galaxy had witnessed something unprecedented. Humans, aided by a princess who had been feared and ridiculed for her appearance, had outsmarted and outmaneuvered a superior enemy. Reports flooded in from allies and neutral factions alike. The story spread across planets and systems. Humans were not weak, fragile, or insignificant. They were clever, brave, and capable of changing the course of the galaxy. Vrilla turned to Kale, her sharp features softened by relief and pride. "They will never underestimate us again," she said quietly. Kale shook his head. "Not just us.
They'll never underestimate humans again. And they'll remember what happens when someone dares to trust what they think is ugly or weak."
She smiled, her teeth sharp, but her expression warm.
"Then let them remember?"
she said. The aftermath of the battle brought unexpected changes. Planets that had remained neutral now pledged loyalty to the human coalition. Alien factions, previously skeptical, began to see humans as powerful partners. Vrilla's status transformed overnight. No longer feared for her appearance, she was celebrated for intelligence, bravery, and vision. Kael, once a simple diplomat and adventurer, became a symbol of human ingenuity and courage. Together, they had rewritten the rules of galactic power. Kael walked through the celebration halls of the Lithar Empire, observing beings from across the galaxy honoring humans and Vrilla. Some still whispered about her appearance, but their tones had changed. There was respect now, admiration, and a recognition that strength and value were not defined by looks. Hayal felt proud, not for himself, but for what humans represented, a species capable of survival, creativity, and courage against impossible odds. Later, Vrilla joined him on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. "The galaxy has changed," she said, "and it started with a human who refused to fear what others could not see." Kale smiled, taking her hand. "It started with trust, courage, and the willingness to act when others hesitated. Humans do that naturally. You just helped show it to the galaxy." Vrilla's eyes glimmered with emotion. "Then we have more work ahead," she said. "We have to ensure this peace lasts. The Council may be weakened, but there are always those who underestimate humans." Kale nodded.
"Let them underestimate us again. We'll be ready."
The night sky stretched endlessly before them, the stars silent witnesses to what had occurred. For Kale and Vrilla, victory was not just a battle won, it was a declaration to the galaxy. Humans could not be dismissed, and those who did would face consequences they could never anticipate. Together, the human and the princess who had been mocked and feared had proven that intelligence, courage, and heart mattered more than appearance, numbers, or assumed superiority. In the quiet moments after the celebrations, Kale reflected on everything that had led to this point. He had come to the Lithar Empire expecting diplomacy, perhaps a simple alliance. Instead, he had faced war, danger, and a test of instincts, strategy, and human spirit. He had married a princess feared for her appearance, yet her mind had been the key to understanding and defeating the council. Together they had rewritten what it meant to be underestimated. Ryla looked at him with a faint smile. "You are right," she said softly. "Humans are unpredictable, resourceful, and unstoppable when they believe in themselves. And now the galaxy knows it too." Kale laughed lightly, and sometimes he added, "Being unpredictable is the greatest weapon of all." She nodded, her scales glinting under the starlight. "Then let us continue to show them." The galaxy had changed forever. Humans, once dismissed as fragile and weak, had proven their worth not through sheer force, but through ingenuity, courage, and the refusal to be defined by others' expectations. The Council had been defeated, but more importantly, the galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Do not underestimate humans, and do not underestimate those who others see as flawed, strange, or weak. For strength often lies where no one expects it, and brilliance often shines brightest in the shadows of doubt. Kale and Vriela stood together, hand in hand, overlooking the galaxy they had saved. Their partnership had begun as a wedding no one believed could succeed. It had grown into a force that reshaped the course of history. Across planets, systems, and species, tales would be told of the human who married the galaxy's ugliest princess and the unimaginable courage, strategy, and heart that followed. The twin suns of the Lither Empire rose over the horizon, bathing the palace in golden light.
Kale turned to Ryla. "We've done more than survive," he said.
"We've shown what humans are capable of. And you've shown the galaxy that appearances don't define power." Vriela smiled, leaning slightly against him. "Then let the galaxy remember," she whispered. "Let them remember that we can overcome anything together." Kale squeezed her hand. "Together," he agreed, knowing that no matter what the future held, humans and their allies would face it with courage, creativity, and an unbreakable spirit. And so, as stars shimmered and fleets realigned across the galaxy, a new era began. Humans had proven themselves worthy of respect, not by strength alone, but by intelligence, heart, and the ability to defy expectation. Princess Vriela, once feared and ridiculed, now stood as a beacon of partnership and strategy. Together they had changed the course of history, and the galaxy would never forget it. The story of the human and the so-called ugliest princess would echo across generations, a legend of courage, ingenuity, and the unstoppable power of underestimated beings. The galaxy was wide, full of danger, wonder, and opportunity. But Kale and Vriela had shown that no challenge was too great when humans acted with courage, intelligence, and trust. They had faced impossible odds, defeated superior forces, and rewritten what it meant to be strong. And in that vast expanse of stars, one truth shone brighter than any weapon, any fleet, or any empire. Underestimated humans could achieve the impossible, and sometimes they could change the galaxy itself.